Morning, Jana.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Jenna, I couldn't hear you just now. I don't know if it's something on my end or your end.
I can hear you, so I'm not sure.
No, not hearing you.
Hmm.
Hey, Zach, good morning. Test your audio because I couldn't hear Jenna just a minute ago.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
No, not hearing you either. All right, hang on.
I don't know if this is any better or not.
You can't hear me either. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Good morning. I guess we're the only early birds.
Oh.
Good
Good morning.
morning. Happy Monday.
Somebody want to say if they can hear us?
I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yay! Okay.
Woo! Thought we were gonna have to
The-
do this via sign language. It's amazing having Liz here. All right, gang, we'll get rolling. Happy Monday. Wow. I mean, we came off of decent weather this weekend. This morning, it's a little bit cloudy, a little bit rainy. It's going to be a little bit colder next 3-4 days. Great start to the week. Anyways, here's what I'd like to do today. Okay, let's do what we usually do. I'm going to do it with some gratitude. So, who's got something you want to share? A little gratitude, something fun you want to share, personal, business, whichever.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Thank you.
Grateful for a lot of things, starting with our health and our life, but also in business. I was able to put somebody under contract last night that I have been working with for over a year. They had a lot of challenges and we finally did it.
That is awesome. Congratulations. A little bit of tenacity in that, right? I mean, hanging in there with somebody for a year, working through whatever they had to work through in order to get them to that point. So, yeah, great job. Great job.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And yourself?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good. I had my first transaction go under contract last night.
Yes, awesome.
I'm expecting another one today.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're just gonna stay out of the way. You're on a roll.
Thank you.
Oh, we are here to help, of course, too. So, yeah.
And I'm reaching out. I'm leaning in.
All right. Good, good, good. Congratulations. That's great momentum. Love it. Maybe
Thank
one
you.
more. Anybody else?
We got front row seat tickets on the 50-yard line for our Clemson game this weekend, so that's going to be very exciting.
There you go. Love that one. That's awesome. Love that. Fantastic. By the way, everybody, how'd your NFL team do yesterday, or are they playing later tonight?
My Packers beat Aaron Rodgers, so that was good.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. Somebody had to on that one. Okay. Anybody else?
Panthers just barely squeaked a loss in there.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody go to the Bills Panthers game yesterday? Nobody went. Okay, all right. It had the appearance that it was a very heavily Bills fan base in the crowd. So, anyways. All right, gang, we'll keep moving on. Here's what I'd like to do today. I want to take a little different spin than what we normally do on here because a lot of times we're just rattling off numbers and stats and showing graphs. And I'm not saying we're not going to do that, but what I really would like to do today, I kind of want to get your kind of feel, if you will, how you feel about the market or what you're thinking the market's going to do the remainder of this year. And what do you think 2026 is going to bring for the real estate market? You can give me national, you can give me local, you can give me hyper local, you can give me, break it down by price point, your area that you focus in. I don't really care. I just want to make this more of a dialogue just to kind of get a feel for what you guys are thinking.
I'm thinking rates are going to help determine what's going on in 2026. Right now, their conventional 30-year fix is just hovering above 6.1, 6.2 nationally and peaking down. VA rates below 5.8. FHA's about 6.1. And I've heard for the last couple of years that magic number is 6.0. So at 5.99, the mentality of a lot of sellers could be, let's go ahead and put it on the market. It's time. And so I'm looking optimistically at 2026. Things continue to move along as they are right now, but who knows? No crystal ball.
Okay, no, I love that, Dave, and thank you. Yeah, obviously rates determine a lot on the activity level, right? Remember last week, we were talking about kind of the peak market. Have we hit peak market? And what does that mean? Peak market, just as a refresher, is the amount of new listings that are coming on the market. That, of course, contributes to overall available inventory. Then we have to look at how many properties are coming off the market by going under contract. And a lot of you, as you just shared, are writing contracts, so congratulations. And then what is left, and of course, those contracts closing, what is left is what we call inventory. So we add new product that goes under contract and closes. The balance that's left that wasn't purchased is inventory. So did we hit peak inventory? Because every year we typically hit peak inventory, usually around September, October. This year we kind of hit it July, August. And why is that? Well, a little bit because those rates that Dave was just talking about, the rates have been dropping. And it's spurring some additional buyer interest simply because, the psychological effect of rates getting closer to 6 or the ability to maybe buy a rate into 6 or slightly under changes everybody's kind of view and perspective. And of course, it does help with affordability too, because every little bit helps when it comes to that mortgage payment every month. So Dave, I love that. So I know you said no crystal ball and rates are going to be the big kind of determining factor in 26. I'm going to ask the follow-up question, and this is for everybody, not just Dave. What rates aside, let's assume rates maybe next year are in the upper 5s to low 6s, kind of where we are right now. What do you think is going to happen to the real estate market? What do you think is going to happen to inventory? Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I'll throw my 2 cents. I think inventory is going to increase a little bit, not like we saw it at the beginning of this year, where it was drastically increasing, and sales were we're inching up, just not nearly as much as inventory, so it's flattened out. But I think inventory and sales will both increase in 2026. And it's kind of like a rebound year because this year and last year, well, I think it was last year was the worst year we had for numbers in 30 years. And this year's, a bit better, not drastically better. I do, see and I hear from different economists, potential for a good 2026. Not amazing, but a little bit better.
Yeah, no, and you're right, beginning the first half of this year, we saw inventory levels climbing, at least in our local market. We saw inventory levels climbing at around 30%. The second half of this year, inventory levels were climbing at only 17%. So yeah, I think rates definitely for us here in this market have definitely contributed to that lower inventory number. And of course, that's also on the supply side of things. We can talk about supply demand. So if rates go down, demand goes up, supply is lower, what happens to price?
Gonna go up. I mean, we could actually see a little bit of a reverse effect, like in these highly desired areas where there is inventory, but I think it's still a little shy in some highly demand areas. So if you get buyers that think it's more affordable at 6% rate, and all of a sudden we get some inventory in those areas, we actually could reverse back to more of a seller's market because it's supply and demand in some of these areas.
Yeah, you're right. So that demand could spur a lot of interest depending on price point, right? Could we get back into seeing more multiple offers? Yeah, we could work backwards. Nationally, by the way, 1 in 4 homes still had multiple offers nationally so far this year. 1 in 4. It's a little over 25%. All right, what else? What else you guys thinking? I mean, you're also in that time of year where you're starting to plan your business, you're setting your goals for next year. I do believe a lot of times how we feel about the market and what we think about the market does contribute to how we think when we're actually setting our goals. How is that impacting you? Positively or even negatively? Sorry, I gotta get your brains working here early Monday.
Yeah, I'll talk if nobody's going to talk. I think it has to really affect all of us in a positive way. If we hear kind of the worst is over, it's been a hard year, we're all lucky to still be standing. I mean, we know we're drivers at KWB, but I think everybody that I listen to, podcast, anything I watch, listen to, they're like, this is the point. Do your skills, sharpen your skills, because we're going to hit the ground running fourth quarter, which we're already in, and really first of next year. So that's got to put a positive light on any agent, whether they're seasoned or new agent.
Yeah, I love all that, Sharon. If guys too, think about this, what you do today shows up 90 days from now. What does that mean? The activity you do for lead generation and lead follow-up and getting people, like moving them closer to going under contract. And then the period of time it takes them from contract to close, on average 30 days. You can see why we say that. What you do today shows up 90 days from now. A third of that is simply the closing process. So that only leaves you 60 days to identify somebody who's ready, willing, and able, get them into an agency relationship, and then move them forward to getting them under contract, whether they're seller or buyer. I mean, you're talking probably about 8 weeks. That's 56 days. Average days on market for listing in our market is 55. So, I mean, all of this is lining up. So yeah, we're in the fourth quarter. Can we still impact fourth quarter numbers? Sure, absolutely. You still have that opportunity to go find people, the highly motivated people, to help get them under contract and close by the end of the year. But so much of what you're really making an effort towards right now is starting to build your future pace pipeline for the first quarter of next year. So the January, February, March stuff. And why is this so important? Well, I mean, I always believe let's finish the year strong, because if we finish strong, we start strong. And we're doing this in a period of time of what we call seasonality, where, just by nature of the season, there's less activity out there, right? And season meaning that fall and like, late winter, early spring timeframe, that 6-month period. Typically, nationally, and even here in the market, here in the Charlotte market, tends to be a little bit slower. Yet, ironically, December tends to be like one of typically our top, at least in the top 30-40% in terms of business months for closing and activity. So we got to keep all of this stuff in mind, right? So I love it. All right. Hey, Dave. Or
Hey,
who-
yeah,
hey,
Jim. Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said, but I'd put another little spin on the higher price points on listings. That I think we're still going to have to be, at least the first part of the year, very price conscious and make sure that our pricing is there. Because with the increased inventory, until the demand catches up to the inventory, it's going to be the better priced homes that are going to be going. I think we're going to see potentially a little price pressure on the higher end before we start seeing, maybe more increases next year.
Yeah, I agree, Jim. And by the way, true in any market, the ones that are priced according to the market, the condition and the location, when those three things come into alignment, those are the properties that will always sell first in any market. Now, the level of activity they get could be, predicated on a few things, but in terms of like the amount of offers, but it takes one buyer to buy it. Okay. So keep that in mind. Love it. Thank you for contributing that, Jim. All right, gang. So here's what I want to do. By the way, anybody, what do you guys feel about this kind of these homeowners out there that maybe don't want to sell because they have these, COVID-driven low interest rates? Is that still a problem in our market?
I mean, it depends
Can I-
on if their motivation. If they have to move, they will, but if they don't have to move, why would they move with that interest rate?
Yep. Okay. Love that. Thanks, Zach. Who else?
I'm going to add 2 cents from the financing side that I hear and see every day. We got a ton of people that want to move. They don't know how to move. And I mean that by there's so much credit card debt. They think they can't change that interest rate and get a different payment. You guys got to dig deep and find out, what do we got to do to get them to where they want? I have one right now that's going to have $150,000 proceeds, sell, pay off debt, go on. They're going to have a higher mortgage payment, but they're going to get rid of debt that they're never going to pay off. And it's just really showing them in black and white how to make it work to sell, to buy.
Yeah, Teresa, I love that. So we're going to use equity, right? It's a great conversation
Yes.
about using equity, something the
But
market is given them, right?
They don't know how to use it. They don't understand. So it's going to
Yeah.
take some really deep questions on you guys as part of why. Tell me more. Why don't you think you can do this? Why are you married to a 3% rate when you're paying 29% on, I'm telling you, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 worth of credit card debt that's never going to go away at these payments they're paying.
Yeah. So even if your mortgage payment went up by $400 or $500, the fact that you're saving $1,000 a month in credit card payments, you're still ahead $500 a month, and you got into the new house and you got rid of the pressure of the credit card debt, right? I mean, there's so many benefits, guys. This is your opportunity to kind of future pace somebody into something and paint a picture of what things can look like for them versus just simply going, yeah, I know houses are more and so is the interest rate, so is your payment. That's not painting the picture. So I love what Teresa said, do a deeper dive, find out. And it's the opportunity too, because you guys have the skill to be able to really go out and give them a very, I'm going to call it accurate assessment of what their equity is as of the day you're talking to them. Nobody else is doing that. Automation can't do that. You can do that. Love it. By the way, here's a stat I just saw just the other day. Out of all the mortgage holders in the US, 20% have a rate less than 3%. And 20%, it's actually 20.4%, have a rate less than 3%. 19.7% have a rate higher than 6. So there's 40% of all mortgage holders that are either below 3 or above 6, which leaves us to 60% of mortgage holders that have a rate somewhere between 3 and 6. So just to kind of put it into perspective, that under 3 kind of group that we keep saying kind of freezes up the opportunity and is not listing their home because they don't want to lose their rate. That group keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller over the years. They of course peaked out when the refi boom kind of that getting into that lower rate went away. It got a sharp increase, but it is now on a very small but steady decline. So just keep that in mind. Only 1 out of 5 people have a rate under 3%. All right, gang, here's what I want to do. I want to just run through some quick stats. So I am going to do a little screen share here. I appreciate this kind of dialogue so far. I think this is fantastic. This gives us that kind of overview of how we're thinking. Okay, let me get into my screen here. And hopefully you guys can see this okay. Oops, hang on. Oh my gosh, here we go. Best stats. Charlotte region. Okay, this is the local market update for September 2025. This gives us that one pager. You know, I'm a fan of one pagers, tells a big story, a lot of information, but clean, concise, creates talking points, creates questions. So let's kind of look at this. New listings. As we can see, we're up 5.3%. Pending sales, we're up 13.4%. There's that impact that we talked about earlier when Dave brought up, you know, that lower interest rate, that 6.1 kind of hovering rate right now. Yeah, pending sales up 13% this September compared to September of last year. Closed sales up 9%. So yeah, we brought on new listings. We did have more activity in new listings hitting the market. But we pended more, we pended quite a few more actually, you know, almost 500 more units. And of course, we closed almost 300 more units. So that just simply absorbed a lot of that new listing that hit the market. So we can see here our median sales price, $397, average sales price, $505, both up slightly. Percent of original list price received down 1.2%. So September of last year, the sellers were getting about 96% of slightly over 96% of their original list price. This year that's dropped to about 95. List to close. So the time and period of listing it until it actually closed has gone up almost 15% from 87 days to 100 days. Days on market until sale or going under contract. 39 last year, 53 this year. And so on and so forth. Average list price up to about 7% to 554. Months of supply of inventory. Last September we were at 2.9 months. This year, September, we're at 3.3 months. We're still a seller's market, but the more we keep creeping towards that 4, 5, 6 number, especially the 5 and 6, which is where our balance is in the market, we are still pretty entrenched here. In 1 year's period of time, we've only seen, you know, a slight increase in the amount of, it's really days. It's, you know, it's a percentage or point of a month. So it's just, it's a few extra days this September compared to September of last year. All right, and then same categories other than a few of these are over here on the year to date. New listings, 8.3, pendings, 4.2. So it's funny, September 13.4, there's to me is the impact of the lower interest rates compared to the beginning of the year, where we weren't kind of seeing that, but yet for the year that we're still up in pending sales at about 4.2%. About half of what we've seen in terms of the percentage of new listings hitting the market, and closed sales up about 3.6. Median price, average price still up on the year. But as we can see, even though there's maybe increase in activity, the average sale price it slowed down, at least in the month of September, compared to what we see over here, okay, year to date. And then there's our list of closed, days on market, and so on. Cumulative days on market at 55. All right, so I wanted to show that. If you wanted a deeper dive into this, you can actually kind of pull up this report. This gives you the entire Q3. It's called the Market Watch Report. And it breaks it down by county. I'm not gonna go through, everything in every county, but it's the Charlotte area, so it's all the counties in here. And if I do wanna come down here and take a look at, maybe let's look at even some of the surrounding counties outside of Mecklenburg, where we do some of our, also where we work, and just see how is that county performing, right? We could take a look at that. There's Cabarrus County and some of their changes. Now, at least here, it's broken down by zip code within the county. So I know we got a lot of folks that work up there, even Cleveland County a little bit. We got some folks that work over there. Gaston County. Gaston County has actually been doing pretty well compared to how it usually does. We tend to see a lot of sometimes slowdowns. Here's what we would see is we have had almost a 10% decrease in the amount of closed sales year over year. In the Q3 compared to Q3 of last year, okay? So inventory of new homes for sale are up about 14%. Months of supply, 3.4. Anyways, you can see all these kind of same stats, and just definitely take a look at those as compared to where you work. I'm gonna come back over here. I'm gonna hit stop share. I just wanted to kind of cover those real quick, because those are in fast stats and MLS. I do want to kind of talk about one other thing and the importance of why do we do, having this call every week. Here's the thing, guys. We just saw some of the Q3 numbers and fast stats. If we only looked at numbers every quarter, every 90 days, we would still be better off than the majority of professionals in our industry, okay? But I want us to keep one thing in mind. We're going to start doing, obviously we're not starting. We're going to continue to do this weekly, and here's why. I really feel that number one, I like how we started the call today. We had a lot of just conversation around things, right? How are we thinking about the market and all that? But when we look at things on a weekly basis, we tend to not only start seeing spot certain trends and things, it's just not simply looking backwards and then saying what happened or what was causing these numbers to show up. When we look at things on a weekly basis, what we get to do is not only look backwards, but again, because of those trends we're starting to see, because we're getting comfortable with certain stats, it allows us to start forecasting and predicting what's going to be happening, at least in the very near future, right? And that's why we kind of opened up the call today, because I was really wanting to see where you guys' thoughts and mindset was around, the kind of this forecasting. What are you thinking? What do you think the market's going to do locally, nationally, or whatever? So much of this is so important in our own mindset of how we think about the market. Because I'll tell you guys, it is really easy. If we're not in these kind of conversations consistently, it is super easy to have our minds conditioned in the conversations we're having. So what do I mean by that? The conditioning. You're out there every day talking to people about real estate. People are going to get their real estate information wherever they're going to get it. People already have their thoughts and ideas kind of preconceived of how things are going to go or how things are going to work. Teresa gave us an example of that, right? So here's the point. If we are having reality conversations, we're looking at real-time information. We know what our thinking is. We know what our results are going to be. We know what our results should be going forward. Again, at least near future. Man, it just combats such negativity and unrealistic thinking that's out there by the people we're actually trying to help. This is one way that you're going to be able to power through when a market is changing, the way our market has changed so much over the last 2 to 3 years. So I wanted to leave you with that today. Does anybody have any final thoughts, comments, questions, or ahas? All right. Well, I appreciate everybody being on. Make it a great Monday. Be safe. And we'll see everybody around the market center. Take care.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, guys.